We're back now with Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. She joins us on this very critical day for the president's immigration policies. And you saw there, Madam Secretary, just discussing this case in California where somebody who'd been deported multiple times, had numerous criminal allegations in the past, firearms, drugs, violence, all kinds of things, not held on an ICE detainer because the law enforcement officials there in California say they can't because of sanctuary city policies, gets out, wreaks havoc. What options do you have?
You know, this is a particular issue that's of great concern to both the President and the Department of Homeland Security. We actually are the largest federal law enforcement agency in our country. We have thousands and thousands of sworn officers. This concept of cities pitting law enforcement, federal law enforcement against state and local law enforcement is not only puts the safety and security of our officers, our communal officers at risk, but the communities themselves that they're trying to serve. Sanctuary cities is an example of a misunderstanding of what it means to cooperate with the federal government. In this case, all we ask is that when you are releasing a convicted criminal, you let us know. We will then come pick them up in a secure and safe area. We will not put the community at risk. We will not put our officers at risk, and then we will be able to do our job. So it's a misunderstanding, but now it's turned into a political fight. I hope that we can continue to work with state and local governments to work through this, but it is vital that law enforcement be able to work with law enforcement.
Okay, so let's talk about the case of 7-year-old Jacqueline Call. It's captured headlines. Everyone seems horrified across the board about the fact that this young girl died. Now, there are reports that her father told the Guatemalan consul, and he has a very specific native dialect. I mean, Spanish is not his first language. But he said to the consul that he thanked the officials who helped them. He wanted to thank the first responders. He thought, at least according to this consul, that everything that could be done was done for her, despite her passing. There are a number of attorneys now who have stepped up and have said that they're representing this family and they have questions. That includes one of them, the attorney Enrique Moreno. He says, they say that Jacqueline and her dad were not given water during the roughly 8 hours they were detained at the Antelope Wells port of entry, waiting to be taken to the Border Patrol station. He says, the attorney, that he doesn't understand why Jacqueline, whose father said she was sick and vomiting, wasn't examined before she was taken on a bus from New Mexico's Antelope Wells port of entry to the Border Patrol station about 90 miles away.
So I can't speak to that, but what I can tell you is what the father told our agents on the scene. Unfortunately, this was part of a large group, about 160 migrants. They approached the border in the middle of the night, unfortunately in the middle of nowhere. We had 3 Border Patrol agents who were able to apprehend them. I should pause there and say we save 4,200 migrants each year because often the Border Patrol might not be there as they make this journey, you know, in this case, the middle of nowhere. So what we do know is when the father first spoke to our agents, he did not indicate. In fact, he said that there was nothing wrong. Food and water was provided. Then later, we had 2 bus loads, because keep in mind, this is 90 miles from any infrastructure. So the first one that went was of UACs. That's our protocol. We take care of them first. This child was with her father, who did not indicate there was any distress. Once the child got on the bus, he did indicate that she was vomiting. And then the Border Patrol agents did everything they could to take care of her. They got her as quickly as possible to an area where she could receive medical care. They actually revived her twice. They enabled the father to get to the hospital. He didn't fit into the air flight because it was small.
As she was taken.
As she was taken. And, you know, I commend them. It's an extraordinarily difficult job. This has hit them very hard. It is a terrible tragedy. 1 death is way too many. But the CBP really did everything they could to care for this child.
Can you tell us what will happen next as far as an investigation, who will oversee it, what kind of timeline there'll be for some more concrete answers?
Sure. So CBP itself immediately opened up its own investigation that now has been transferred over to the Inspector General for the department. So CBP will be working with him, as will we, to find out what we can do to strengthen procedures. But again, middle of nowhere, middle of the night, no infrastructure. It makes it extraordinarily difficult to give care to somebody who, unfortunately, in this case, turned out to be very sick.
I want to ask you a reaction. Word that the Defense Secretary is going to retire. It's common that there are changes to an administration a year or 2 in. Can you tell us anything about your plans or reaction to his decision to leave?
Secretary Mattis has proved to be an incredible partner of ours. We've signed a monumental memorandum of agreement between our 2 departments to work on cybersecurity together. He certainly has been very supportive of our border security mission. He helps us with our counterterrorism mission as we we look to fight the terrorists abroad so they don't come here. So the home game and the away game, we work very closely together. I have complete admiration and respect for him and have so enjoyed working with him.
I want to ask you about something else. I mean, this headline, I'm going to be frank, it struck me as a bit sexist. From the Washington Examiner, it says, Nielsen expected to be forced out at DHS when Protector Kelly leaves White House, and then quotes someone saying they don't expect that after General Kelly departs that you would stay. That was just my initial reaction as a woman, that you would need a protector or someone to keep you safe at the White House. How do you respond to something like that?
Well, first of all, I'm still here. I'm still doing my job, still doing the job that I swore an oath to do. It is a bit sexist, but, you know, I find this fascination with all the politics at the White House and the intrigue to just be disappointing, because there's a lot of work we have to do at DHS. We have 240,000 men and women every day wake up to secure this country, so I will continue to support them and continue to secure the homeland.
And part of your job is being on the Hill. I want to play a little bit of what Congressman Gutierrez said today, talking about shame on everybody who is doing anything to separate children and families, and give you a chance to respond. Here's what he said today.
Shame on everybody that separates children and allows them to stay at the other side of the border, fearing death, fearing hunger, fearing sickness. Shame on us for wearing our badge of Christianity during Christmas and allow the secretary to come here and lie.
Your response?
Well, as I think I said in the hearing, first of all, calling me a liar, fighting words, it's not appropriate, it's not professional, it's not accurate. But secondly, again, we had no policy to separate families to the extent that parents were separated from children, just as in the Obama administration, just as in the administration before, happens in 3 instances: when the child's welfare is at risk, secondly, if the parent has committed a crime and needs to be taken to a criminal area where we wouldn't want to take a child, or if the person is not related to the child, which unfortunately we have. We've had a great increase in fraud because they know if they grab a kid, in some cases, and come to the border, the smugglers and traffickers teach you that you can get in. So I think my whole exchange, honestly, I found to be offensive, but mostly offensive on behalf of, again, we have 240,000 men and women who get up every day to enforce the law. The law says if you come here illegally, it's a crime. That's what we did. We tried to enforce the law.
Well, we know that many of them are on the front lines facing very dangerous situations every day, and they do this willingly. So we thank those who are willing to come up and serve their country in that way. And Madam Secretary, we thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.